Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Here's what's making news tonight. A well-known businessman jailed for stealing electricity. The ankle bracelet monitoring system not working like it should. BTC take-back talks resume, and good news for the Good Samaritan home. Those stories and much more on the way. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and NB12 starts right now. Joining us here at NB12, former president of the Bahamas Contractors Association, Stephen Wrinkle, and Segway tour operator Idina Farah, both learning their fate in court this morning. Wrinkle, who was convicted of stealing electricity, and Farah, who was convicted of assaulting a police officer, among other charges, were each sentenced to 1 year in prison. Our Jasmine Bonmi was in court and filed this report.
After he was sentenced, Wrinkle was immediately handcuffed and taken into custody. However, his lawyer insists that he believes the sentence is unfair. Back in June 2011, the head of Wrinkle's construction had been charged with dishonest consumption of electricity. Wrinkle had denied that he stole power from BEC while at the Bay Pearl building on Parliament Street, which he managed at the time. At his sentencing today, his lawyer Jomo Campbell requested that Wrinkle not be given a custodial sentence, instead asking that he be ordered to donate money to a charity, citing that Wrinkle had no previous convictions, is a 61-year-old father of 3, and is the primary provider for his family. He also argued that the court be merciful in its sentencing. The sentence was handed down in court number 5 by Magistrate Darren Roll Davis. The well-known contractor was sentenced to 1 year in prison and a $1,000 fine. If he does not pay the fine, he faces another 3 months in prison. Wrinkle did not give any outward reaction after hearing his sentence. Outside court, Campbell says his client took the news well.
Well, as it relates to Mr. Wrinkle, you would have seen his demeanor in court. He took it, he understands the legal process. He's already instructed us to appeal. He understands that is going to take place.
But Wrinkle was not the only one sentenced to Her Majesty's prison this morning. And moments after Wrinkle was sentenced this morning, Idina Farah received a similar sentence in court. Farah was convicted on January 22nd, the same day as Wrinkle, on charges stemming from a January 2011 incident in which she and 2 police officers were involved in an altercation over a traffic citation, according to court documents. That January 6, 2011 altercation sparked public outrage, and NB12 was there that day as tourists and locals looked on in horror. Farah was reportedly conducting a Segway tour before the altercation. In court today, Campbell, who also represents Farah, asked Magistrate Roll Davis for leniency, as he believed his client had learned her lesson and has strong family ties and community ties. He also stressed that this was his client's first time being on the wrong side of the law. But Magistrate Roll Davis sentenced Farah to 1 year in prison after being convicted of 2 counts of threats of death, 2 counts of assaulting police, resisting arrest, and obscene language. Inside and outside court, her family was overcome with emotion as Farah hugged her mother and several other female relatives.
As it relates to Ms. Farah, she's a female of a young age. As we indicated in court, her mother was a former member of the police force. You would have seen their emotional expressions. They were all surprised, knowing their daughter to be the person they know her to be. And they were very shocked by the decision as well.
Meantime, Campbell filed appeals in both cases this afternoon, saying he'll also request his clients get bail pending appeal.
Both of the defendants expressed their remorse, and we felt that they were capable of reform without having to be remanded to custody. Not everyone that's brought before the courts has to be remanded to custody, and we certainly felt that both of these matters were matters in which sentences other than custodial ones would have warranted. Both conviction and sentences we feel should be appealed, based on the evidence as we see it that came out in both trials.
Both Wrinkle and Farah were immediately transported to Her Majesty's prison, where they will begin serving their sentences. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
The man who turned himself in a day after police issued an all-points bulletin for his arrest in connection with last Thursday's shooting of 2 police officers was arraigned on several counts of possession of a firearm and armed robbery this afternoon. 27-year-old Reynaldo Adderley was arraigned at Court Number 1 before Chief Magistrate Roger Gomez. The Spice Street resident was not required to enter a plea to the charges. He is accused of 1 count of armed robbery. It is alleged that on February 6, 2013, he robbed Mario Canoli of a gold chain and charm worth $7,000. He was also charged with 3 counts of possession of a firearm for 3 separate incidents that occurred on February 7, 2013. Charges relating to the shootout in Pinewood Gardens last Thursday were not filed today. He was remanded to Her Majesty's prison until June 25th, when a voluntary bill of indictment will be served. Well, the multi-million-dollar ankle bracelet system put in place by the previous government is not working as effectively as it ought to, according to National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage. And that's why he said he is proposing to revamp the manner in which they are used and controlled. Paige McCartney has more.
Even though there's been a reduction in crime, according to Nottage, it's not good enough. Overall crime fell by 5% in 2012 compared to 2011. But there have been 12 murders so far this year, and police continue to warn about a surge in armed robberies and housebreakings that plague Bahamians. But Nottage said the problem lies in keeping hardened criminals off the streets. He said when police arrest them, the judicial system is such that they aren't given speedy trials and are therefore released on bail. Nottage said officials had hoped the ankle bracelet system would assist in restricting the movements of those accused criminals who are waiting for their cases to be heard, but the minister said it doesn't seem to help.
These guys have found ways to get rid of the bracelets, but more than that, many of them have been committing crimes with the bracelets. That's not acceptable. And for example, right now, one of the things I am looking at is the extent to which we can improve the use of these bracelets, because surely we would have anticipated that they would have a more positive effect than they have been having.
Bearing that in mind, Nottage said he would like to improve the system by having magistrates restrict in their court orders where those being released on bail are allowed to go. He also believes police officers should be the ones monitoring the accused criminals rather than the current private company ICS Bahamas.
If they have a license to go anywhere in the island, then that has consequences. And there have been occasions when I feel that if they were being monitored by policemen as opposed to by a private company, that the policemen would be able to use the information more positively. Intelligence-led policing is where it's at. We have to be able to get information. We have to be able to get information from the public or from the electronic devices, technology that we have working for us. And I'm not satisfied that is the case right now.
Nottage said he has only made an informal proposal on the matter with the Commissioner of Police and is waiting on his response before a decision can be made on the changes. As for the $4.6 million closed-circuit television system that would strategically place several hundred cameras in crime hotspots on New Providence, Nottage said the ministry wasn't able to get them installed before December, as was promised, but he confirmed that last week officials conducted the first testing for the first camera that was put up on Bay Street.
We hope to be able to have the sort of full installation of the CCTV project within the first 6 months of this year. Those cameras will be mainly located in what we call the hotspots, the crime areas, and I think that would give us some additional tools to use in reducing crime.
And to further address the crime problem, Nottage said a national intelligence agency is being developed. He said the first 15 to 20 personnel have been appointed and are being trained. The minister said the intelligence gathered from this new agency should better help police control crime. Reporting for MB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
Prime Minister Perry Christie said he has been assured that there will not be any further layoffs at Baha Mar Properties in the near future. The recent laying off of 140 employees from the Wyndham Nassau Resort has put into question whether more layoffs are pending and if the resort will even remain open, since Baha Mar has the option to close the 1,000-acre property 12 months before the grand opening of Baha Mar in December 2014. Christie said concern mounted after the Wyndham layoffs that there would also be changes at the Sheraton Resort, but those fears have been quashed.
Well, I'm hoping not. I was led to believe and did indicate to the union that the discussions I had placed me in a position to conclude that layoffs would take place at the Sheraton. I am now advised that that will not happen.
But Christie said similar to the approximate 800 layoffs from the Atlantis Resort a few years ago, the government cannot interfere with the decisions of private employers who choose to protect their company finances. But he said the government will look at better ways to protect employees and ensure they are given sufficient notice to prepare for a life-changing event.
The fact of the matter is that the government must continue to work at strengthening its relationship with investors and developers. The law is the law. It enables them to take certain actions if they feel it necessary for the survival of their property. The government has to put in place, I think, certain provisions that will give greater protection to workers in those circumstances.
Meantime, the Prime Minister says he recently met with the BTC negotiating committee to ask for a progress report to indicate that he had deferred appointing a director for BTC and the position sits vacant and he wants it filled soon. He says they also discussed other issues, including the establishment of a select committee on the sale of BTC and the resignation of Cable and Wireless Caribbean head David Shaw. But regarding the BTC sale renegotiation, Christie said he wants it behind him and the government as soon as possible.
Thought and discussion on the matter, so I thought it a very timely fashion to indicate to the negotiating committee that time was becoming much more of an essence in this matter, and that I would expect them to, as we're moving towards now 2014, when liberalization must take place, I would want these matters to be put behind me as quickly as possible, so that we could focus on the issue of liberalization and the entry into the Bahamian market of new players, so that we could in fact have the kind of competition that we will need to make things better.